you're absolutely right about the childhood trauma and how we take on these stories. And that's how the ego built up, right? Below our level of awareness. We create these stories to be safe, and then we don't know it, but we reinforce them over the years. So the dreams are trying to pull you back to that open awareness.
Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNEILL.
Hi, I'm Holly McNEILL, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. And today we're going to be talking about what happens when we sleep, dreams. And dreaming, to me, lucid dreaming, dream interpretation has always been part of my journey. And so I was asking around, is there someone that can really talk about this, dream interpretation, what it means, and how it affects your life? And as everything on my journey, the perfect person showed up. So I'm excited today to talk a lot about dreams, and welcome as a guest, Valerie Johns. Valerie, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is going to be fun. Much like the Akashic Records reading, Valerie and I got together 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she did a dream interpretation for me, which was lovely and very insightful and heart-opening. So we are going to play parts of that, a good part of that, as a second part of this episode. So this is really another 2-part episode. But for now, Valerie, can you tell us how you got into dream interpretation? How is your passion? Kind of let the listeners know who's here.
Okay. Well, I started recording my dreams back when I was in college. When my minor was in psychology of religion, and we read a lot of Carl Jung, Mircea Eliade, Norman O'Brown, and a lot of the emphasis was on dreams and spirituality.
Okay.
And then I took a 10-year gap decade away from school. And when I returned, I went back into studying psychology. And my very first quarter in graduate school, the director of the Jung Institute in Los Angeles was my professor.
Wonderful.
And so this was 35 years ago, from very early on in my career, dream recording, being curious about dreams, what Carl Jung called active imagination, has been part of my practice. Other modes of dealing with dreams, Gestalt therapy, there's 1,000 ways to come to dreaming. So I try to use as many of them as I can, depending on who's sitting with me or what dream of mine that I'm working with. Mm-hmm. But when the pandemic came, I had nowhere to go but inside myself.
As many of us, yes.
And as the universe provides, I got a little invitation to join a dream class taught by a woman named Toko Pa-Turner. Mm-hmm. And so I did 30 days of what are called dream drops. Uh-huh. And of course, once the algorithm knows you're listening, along came Stephen Eisenstadt and Pacifica University's Graduate Center, his dream tending course, in which I took many different classes with Stephen, and then studied with Robert Moss, all different modalities of how to bring dream images alive. Wow. And in there, I had some significant dreams, so significant that I began writing the 3rd attempt at my memoir, which I actually completed through the dream work.
Wow.
Through the dream work, accessing through the imagination things that my mother had validated were real, but that came to me through dreams.
Wow.
And sent me on a journey of seeking wholeness, not finding it yet, but seeking elements of it that are very reassuring that while I'm sleeping, Psyche is not wasting my time.
Wow.
She's sending me postcards, telling me what's going on, giving me my callings, amusing me, and taking me ever deeper into knowing myself.
I love that. It sounds like an amazing journey, and much like my own, where it's a long kind of unfolding in that search. And you mentioned the postcards before in our original dream interpretation. So it's really more than just dreaming, right? There's a message, which is what I love that you've come from all different types of studies and modalities, right? Did they all kind of point back to the similar theme, or was there some piece of or is it some piece of everything that you bring to your work?
It really is holistic. It really is, like a cake is made of many different ingredients.
Right.
All of these different ingredients create my version of how I do it. And each one of us who tends dreams does it a little differently.
Okay.
Some people are more aggressive. Some people more just sit back and pause the action and let the images come to life.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are more in there messing around with the images. Now, I tend to just go wherever the dream calls to me. Like the image over my shoulder is a painting I made when I woke up from a dream of a red dress dancing in space.
Wow.
As if there were a body in it, but without a body.
Wow.
And a woman's voice chanting red dress medicine over and over again, red dress medicine. Like, don't forget this. So I wrote it down and I painted it that morning. And I played with the word redress, red dress, redress, to repair. Medicine that repairs is what dreams are.
Wow. Red dress medicine, redress medicine. Yes. Dream tending is the term you use, dream tending. And is that getting more popular, do you think? Or do you think people are starting to understand the value in dream interpretation? Or is it something that the world really, it's a tool, right? It's a tool to get to that inner question, to uncover those things that might be holding you back. And do you think the world is ready for it? Are they using it? Or what are you finding?
Well, back before World War II, I believe Carl Jung said that the health of the world, the well-being of the world was hanging by a string, a thread, and that thread was the human psyche. So it's attendant upon us to listen to the psyche when she speaks, if we're going to find a way through the muddle that has only gotten worse since the 1930s.
Indeed. That was almost 100 years ago now. That's amazing. So I'm a true believer in your work. I've had, and as you'll hear in the second half of the episode, reoccurring dreams, and I've learned of lucid dreaming, and there's a lot, in Buddhism, they say that when you die, right, you can see what's going on. And falling asleep and waking back up is a close thing to dying, right? So in that dream state, you're really more open, I would say. If you can see it, is there something that someone needs to do when they're dreaming it's hard to pay attention to your dreams. Often people forget their dreams. So what do you tell people about, how do they start to learn what's going on besides having it interpreted?
Well, the first thing is just a good dream practice, which is put a large piece of paper, notepad, sketchpad by the bed with a pen, so that you can access it easily. Some people dictate them into their phones. And so the voice memos is ready to pick up the moment that you wake up from a dream. But knowing that ego goes to sleep when you go to sleep, and she's really not fond of what's going on in the unconscious. She wants to protect you often from material. Right. So before you go to sleep, you say out loud to the universe, may I remember my dreams? May I remember my dreams? And like an incantation over and over. So the last thought as you go into the dream time is with a kind of a blessing and a welcoming of the dream. And then when you wake from a dream, it takes practice, because ego goes, no, go back to sleep.
Yes.
Rumi even wrote a poem, hundreds of years ago. Don't go back to sleep.
Yes.
When you wake, stay awake. And so when you wake up in the dream and you write it down right away, it's like you can catch the tail of it and bring it in.
Yep.
And then you can flesh it out, give it a title, research the various images and what they may mean. Like in the red dress, when I shared that dream with another woman, she told me that her master's degree had been in this artist in Canada who had hung empty red dresses in trees to honor missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Wow. Wow.
And since 2011, people have been hanging empty red dresses in trees to honor women the way that people would wrap a yellow ribbon around a tree to welcome home a veteran.
Right. Wow.
The red dress was honoring the missing and murdered Indigenous women they seldom find the murderer. It's often domestic abuse.
Wow.
And so I began to find out other connections to the red dress that bring the image more alive of like, this repair is needed in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We need redress in so many different forms.
Redressed. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about, I know when I wake up, it's there for a moment, and it is the ego's job. The brain's job is to keep you safe and keep that programming, whatever, in place, and not any threat to that is often altered or eliminated. So that's probably, why when we wake up, if you don't write it down, it's just gone.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's why nightmares come, because they say, this one you won't forget.
Really?
This one they come with urgency. I've never met a nightmare that wasn't the greatest friend.
Really? That is so interesting.
Yes.
Nightmares that aren't the greatest friend. So you are a psychologist, right? And you practice
marriage and family therapist.
Okay, marriage and family therapist. So you're going about doing that, and I think you still practice, correct? But this dream thing, and I love, and nothing happens by chance, right? Either in the dream, in the subconscious, or I think in life, because it's always unraveling that ego and setting you on a path to freedom. And so finding these courses, and I just love that you have an interest in this, and you're now really trying to get it out there. You're talking about starting a podcast, correct? Or no?
Well, we've been talking about it. I'm not quite sure about tending dreams. The level of vulnerability.
Right. That's true. In fact, I appreciate when we did my dream interpretation. You said, this is a little bit of an experiment. The first time that I'm doing an interview and a dream interpretation. And so you asked me, you said, on one hand, I want you to be vulnerable, but on the other hand, this is going to be on a podcast. So I really appreciated that. And I, if you listen to my podcast, you know that I'm willing to be pretty out there. But I imagine you're right. I imagine there's other people that maybe would be a little less willing, I guess.
Or they're willing while they're doing it, and then 3 days later they have a shame attack.
Yeah.
And I'm clinically responsible. I have a fiduciary duty to the people I work with. And while it's different than having my own patients in my own private practice, as a therapist, I still think that that's my number one duty, is to somebody's welfare, and
right,
that it could be a little bit too exploitative.
Wow. That's beautiful. Actually, not thoughtful is not the right word, but respectful. And so yeah, but I appreciate that the work that you do and the dream interpretation, because I do think there's a lot of value there. Has there been any dreams that that you haven't been able to interpret, or does it come easy for you? How when you're talking to someone, and again, we're going to show our work together, how does it come for you? You mentioned it comes differently for different people, but just walk us through how it works when somebody tells you their dream.
Well, the first thing we listen for is what comes up in the body. Where do you feel as a dream? What emotions come along with the dream images? Horror or excitement or amazement or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then we amplify it. We try to bring it bigger. And like looking at it under a magnifying glass and making it bigger and zooming in on one. It can just be a pair of shoes. Or like I had a nightmare a few weeks ago, I was in a tsunami. And I lost everything. But in my hand was a ring of keys.
Uh-huh.
And so those keys, I began to do research about what does it mean to have a key? And I came up with a prayer about the golden key, where whenever you feel troubled, to just say the word God,
Uh-huh.
to take yourself into a meditation in the moment of trouble, like a prayer. And the prayer is the key. So it felt like the dream was saying, a little prayer in your life might be a good idea right now. So just amplifying that one image and then following that image takes you to other stories about that image, like the red dress, and then it coming to the missing and murdered women.
Wow.
It wasn't just me dreaming about repair. I was in the collective unconscious with other women who had had similar dreams and wanted to bring them to fruition. So we try to amplify and dream forward. Sometimes we'll go back into the dream where it ended and say, what would happen if we dreamed it forward?
Right.
What would happen next? And that, we call it active imagination. And it's like, what can you imagine would happen next what would the dream want? Not what do you want, but what is the dream calling you to?
What is it calling you to?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually did that in the work we did.
Yeah.
But in my case, it was a reoccurring dream. Do you get that? I mean, people have reoccurring dreams, I imagine, and they're trying to tell you something,
Yes.
right? And so is there more in the reoccurring dream, or just the single nightmare, or it's all different?
It's all different and it's all the same. I mean, I think that a recurring dream is a dream that hasn't fully been digested or understood. That's why we use the term tending or weaving, dream weaving, instead of interpretation, because interpretation sounds like Dr. So-and-so has the expert idea of how to interpret your dream.
Okay.
So much of dreaming is about that, whereas dream tending is holding space for the dream images to then come alive.
I love that. And I think I probably said dream interpretation at the beginning, but dream tending, yes, much better. And then the nightmare then, like you said, is just more urgent.
Yes, exactly. And that it when it recurs, it's saying, you didn't get my message.
Uh-huh.
I'm back again. Same monster at the door, same monster under the bed. Could you please just put your feet down and say hello to me? And what happens when you meet the monster?
I wonder what you'd say to kind of the naysayers, right? That the dreams are just dreams, but when I think about it, our minds are so amazing, and our ego, when we're awake, we only have so much focus, and most of the day, even though I really try to practice my meditation and letting go, most of the day I'm busy and I'm engaged, I'm doing, not being. But in the dream state, it's like this kind of open, clear space. So if there's listeners out there that have been troubled by dreams or, can't sleep because of nightmares, but they're just not sure that what do you say to the naysayers, I guess? That's a question.
Well, back in the Bible,
yeah,
it was Joseph of the multicolored coat.
Yes.
Joseph told his brothers he had a dream about heaven, and they threw him in a pit and left him to die.
Yeah.
So dreamers throughout history have not had a really good rap.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Because the ego is threatened. It's threatened by the presence of something greater.
Right.
If we can't package God up and make God like a punishing God or a daddy God, but rather an incredible force that lives inside every human being,
yes,
we would all be equal. It's such a threat to the entire patriarchal.
Yes. I love that. I love that answer. It goes back to the ego. And I've studied the ego, a lot, and how the mind works, and nerve cells that wire together, and not just within yourself, but like you said, within society. And so what you're saying is if people really were to more get into the interpretation of their dreams, it could help to unravel a lot of that ego that keeps them stuck or anxious or fearful.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Like right now, a lot of people are feeling a little apocalyptic.
Yes.
Around 2015, I've probably had more than 36 apocalypse nightmares.
Wow.
winds of death, fire, just all kinds of destruction. And even once I had a dream, I was in a meeting and somebody said, I'm really sick of hearing Valerie talk about the apocalypse this and the apocalypse that, blah, blah, blah. Does anyone else feel sick about Valerie's going on about the apocalypse? And everybody raised their hands.
Wow.
We're tired of this. Stop talking about the end of the world. And I was like this little boy crying wolf in the dreams going, something really bad is happening. It's trying to push through the voice. And sure enough, I mean, bad things are happening in the world.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend yesterday because people are worried that the world will implode. It's like, it might, but, we are more than this world. We are more than this life and this ego. So I guess a way that you could say it is dream tending is trying to help you escape the ego, find your freedom, find that connection. When all that ego unravels, there's that connection. And in the dream world, is where, well, I don't know, in the dream world is similar to the world of the emptiness that Buddhism talks about, where we're all connected, that one mind, right? And yeah, so I see the resistance. So what would you tell someone or give them a tip now if, if they're just not sure or, is there something that to read or to get a hold of you if they just want to learn more about dream tending?
Well, there are wonderful, wonderful sites and wonderful teachers everywhere. Steve Eisenstadt teaches dream tending on a regular basis. Tokopa Turner's got this wonderful 30 emails. I think you get 30 days in a row of dream drops. Reading my book, Ashes in the Milk.
Yes, tell us about the book.
It's meant as an opportunity to sit with you, whatever it brings up in you. That we all had early childhood trauma because we were all helpless.
Yes.
Babies are born, we're the only mammals who can't get up and get the milk.
So vulnerable. Yes.
So I write from that place of the early infant point of view in a way that hopefully cracks open the seeds within the reader to then go, oh, me too.
Right. Wow. And how long's this book been out?
It came out last August.
Last August. Lovely. I think that you're absolutely right about the childhood trauma and how we take on these stories. And that's how the ego builds up, right? Below our level of awareness, we create these stories to be safe, and then we don't know it, but we reinforce them over the years. So the dreams are trying to pull you back to that open awareness. I love that. So
exactly.
Before we head into, well, actually, the listeners will have to wait till the next episode is released. But how do they get a hold of you, Valerie? What's anything you want to promote, or any works you're working on now? You said your memoir. Tell the listeners where they can get a hold of you. I'm
at valeriejohns.com. VALERIEJOHNS.com. Just a simple me. I'm the only one of me who's doing this work. Nice. So it can't me up with other people. Nice. Ashes in the Milk is on Facebook. I'm Valerie Johns LA on Instagram. Same on TikTok and in Substack, which is my favorite place to write now. I'm Out of the Ashes. Okay, beautiful. Well, I must say that the work that we did together was very insightful for me. And so I hope everyone will tune into that next episode. And very, very valuable. And I think I admitted a little bit in the recording from last time, but my ego certainly was not into this at all. I'm like, you know what? I'm considered a scholar in my field and blah, blah, blah. And I don't need you to tell me what my dream, to be honest, that's what was coming up. But I knew enough that, okay. So I'm so glad I did, because
was very valuable. So thank you for being on today's episode, and I'm very excited to have you on the second half. Coming up, we'll do a little bit of, we're mostly going to play the episode, but we'll be doing a little bit of tending to it, I guess. So thank you, Valerie, and thank you. And thank you, listeners. Please tune in to next week's episode. I believe it's going to be aired next week. And you can get a fresh, in-person, actual dream tending by Valerie Johns. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNEILL. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific,